I've been a nasty girl, nasty. I've been a nasty girl, nasty. I'm trying to somebody gonna match my freak. Hello, Amanda. Somebody gonna match my freak. Hello, Amanda. Hello, hello, hello. Hi, hi, hi. How are you? I hope that you're having a good day. I hope that today is going great. How have you been? How has everything been going in your neck of the woods? Hopefully amazing. Hopefully it has been going absolutely, positively amazing. I hope so. I cannot believe it's already Thursday. Like, the fact that it's Thursday, my brain can't even really fathom. It's been a good day today. Well, today's been okay. I'm not going to say it's been good. I'm going to say today has been okay. I've been here. I've probably been better, but I've been okay. Let me share this real quick. Hold on one second. Here. I've probably been better, but I've been okay. Let me share this real quick. Hold on one second. Okay. All right, y'all. Listen. Tonight. Well, let me let it get up first, y'all, because for some reason it always wants to do this. It always wants to try to play in my face when it knows that I'm ready to talk about something. I'm nervous. Tonight is Paige night. I'm very nervous to talk about my girl because I want to do right by her. I want to give her the world. I want to make sure that she's good. I want to make sure that we have a really good discussion about her. Hello, Meandra. Hello, Kevin. Hello. Meandra, you've been so quiet. I don't know. I was like, no, my girl done left me. Anyway, I know that's really random, but I was thinking about that today. I was like, no, Meandra. Hello, Katrina. Hello, how are you doing today, my love? I'm doing great, Meandra. Hey, Brittany. Not sup. Not you coming in saying sup. Girl, not sup. But hello, Katrina. Hello, Meandra. Hello, Brittany. Hello, everybody that has come in. I haven't been able to see. Oh, I hope you're doing good. I hope you're okay. Hey, Envy. Baby, my girl said yesterday. Was that yesterday you said you was about, or was that today? Envy, where you said you was about ready to just... I said, Lord, don't let my girl be taken out. I cannot get this right because this did this the other day where because of the picture that I chose, I feel like it's not like I want it to be. And I need it to be on something and I don't have anything for it to be on. Because I want y'all to see my girl's face. I need y'all to get the ambiance. I need y'all to get... Not the baby trying to... You didn't have to do all of that. That wasn't even necessary. Stupidity. Yesterday, wasn't it a few hours ago? Hush, Brittany. You know I don't know. You know I don't be remembering stuff, child. Hush. You know I do not be remembering when stuff happens. Somebody to put yourself in a box and resize it. You know what? Okay, this works. That works for me. I can handle that. That looks good. I can handle this. Okay, now the light is probably going to go off at some point. That's perfectly fine. It is what it is. It's going to go off. I don't know what else to tell you. Hi to everyone who's coming in. Hi, how are you doing? How has your day been going? Have you been drinking water? Have you been eating enough food? Have you been getting enough sleep? I hope so. If not, I'm sorry that I can't help you with those things. As you can see by the title of Le Live, and also as you can see by our beautiful, gorgeous background, we're going to be talking about my girl, Paige LaTanya Matthews. And yes, her middle name is Canon LaTanya because, listen, Rose McGowan signed it in my Book of Shadows, my copy of the book. So it is now Paige LaTanya Matthews. No one can tell me any different, and I probably will fight you in the street if you try to tell me any different. Hello, Trinell. Hello. I am so excited to talk about her because when we first started this little series, where we were doing kind of like a deep dive on each one of the sisters, I was very excited to get to Paige because I feel like she's one that I kind of say like the same thing about all the time. And you're gonna, if you followed me before, you're gonna hear me say a lot of those same things tonight. And that's perfectly fine because I am never going to miss an opportunity to really give my girl her props. Never. With that said, if you are a person who does not like Paige and you wish to express that fact unprompted, then you will more than likely be muted from the live because that's not what we're here for. We're here to have a good time. We're here to talk. We're here to kiki. We're here to talk about the character. We're here to respectfully share our thoughts. And we're just here to love on each other real quick. So, before we get started, make sure you head on over to my YouTube, which you can find the link in my bio. And you can subscribe to that. You can go to my Patreon, check that out. Whatever you want to do, if you want to support. If you don't, it's okay. So, let's go ahead and get into my girl. Oh, wait a minute. Let me show y'all. I got the notes. These aren't the full notes, but I got the notes. I got the notes. I do want to say, too, I understand that people are going to have preferences and things and characters they like more than the other. Please do not tell me that you stopped watching the show when Paige came on. Please stop. Do not tell me that you liked Prue better than Paige. Please do not do that because you will be muted. You'll be given a warning. Let's start there. You will be given a warning. However, you will be muted if you keep it up. That's all I'm telling you. That's all I'm telling you. So, now that we all have, is it freezing bad for everybody? Is it freezing? You gave no warning. Oh, no. I mean, child, because my thing is just is what it is. People cutting up. Okay, so it's freezing for a second, so hopefully we don't show out too bad, child. Okay, but thank y'all for being on it. Like I said, there's some people that don't mean harm when they say that. Some people just want to be, jerks about it. So anywho, thank you, Michael, for saying it. Just exit and rejoin. You'll be back. So, where do I want to start? Okay, so let me just start, I guess, at the good part. Let me open this vent first. You know what? Let me open my vent because the air is not airing. And yeah. Anyway, y'all, I got a lot of nervous energy. I have a lot of nervous energy. Because whenever I start these, I get very nervous because I'm trying to shut up, Brittany. Because it's different for me sitting down and specifically presenting information in a certain way. So if I seem like I'm rambling or I almost seem like I'm chaotic or maybe a little manic, it's not really mania. Not this time. The mania is not kicking in this time. This time it's just me being nervous. So okay, all right, let's get back on track. Okay, all right, so the first thing I want to address before we get started, and really hopefully this will help you to set sort of a tone in your mind for why I'm so enthusiastic about her. Paige is my favorite character, right? She's my favorite character because I feel like she has a different set of struggles than everybody else. Listen, I low-key love the manic episodes. Listen, it helps. It helps. That's all I'm gonna say. But no, Paige is my favorite character for me because not only do I relate to her, hey Crystal, but I also feel like Paige is a character that has so much more story in her that was not tapped into. And I think as I really go through my journey of like what kind of writer I eventually want to be, what kind of person I am when I take in media. You know, some people like underdogs, some people like different tropes, whatever else. And I think that I tend to really find comfort in characters that are sort of on the outside looking in, right? So characters like Chris, characters like Dawn from Buffy, characters like Paige, those characters who are in a weird place of being directly connected to the main cast and also a complete outcast from them. Those tend to be the characters that I find myself gravitating to. So I think that's part of why I love Paige so much. Another big thing that I think I enjoy about watching her is that even though she tries to find herself, even though she kind of loses herself, honestly, she doesn't give up the hope, I guess, is what I love about her. Her and Phoebe are kind of alike in that way, where they still love life. It's just sometimes they don't like certain parts of life. Like sometimes they just don't like certain aspects of life, but they still have a lust and an enthusiasm for life that is natural to them. So that's why I love my girl. If you don't know who Paige is, spoilers. Spoiler alert. Paige is actually their youngest half sister that their mother conceived by her white lighter Sam, who we meet in season 2. And we are not introduced to Paige until after Prudence has gone until Prudence has gone down to the afterlife that she is destined to lead. Our girl Prue is burning for eternity, and Paige now has to step into the power of 3 and help them to, you know, accomplish their destiny as the charm. Baby, and listen, I know I joke a lot about Prue being in the lower room, but girl, if you think Prue was in the upper room, then that's great. Then I support you in your delusion, and I hope that you have a long, long life, because darling, bless it is all I can say. Anyway, so when we meet Paige is a spirited young woman who, like I said, kind of reminds me of Phoebe. Not just in the fact that they kind of tell us she's a hussy a little bit, but also just in the fact that she loves life, just in the fact that she loves just being free. She's young, she's beautiful, and okay, we'll give her, I give Patty purgatory. Patty is in purgatory. Prue is burning in hell. Prue is burning. I remember one time somebody like fought me to pieces because I made that joke, and they genuinely thought that I was for real. They really thought that I was serious and thought that I was actually condemning Prue to hell. And I was like, girl, we need help. Anyway, when we're introduced to Paige, we find out a little bit of her backstory. We find out a little bit about her. She was adopted. She was given up at birth. She spent her life, well, not her life, but she spent at least a part of her life searching for her birth parents. She actually thought that she was related to the Hallowell sisters. And then, okay. The way that they bring her into the show is cute. But there's one part where Paige says, I actually thought I was related to them, but their mom died a long time ago, so it couldn't be. What? Huh? Like, I always found that line so weird because it felt like they unnecessarily put it in when they didn't even have to tell us. They didn't have to say that, but they chose to. And so it's like, I would have just said, I thought that I was related to them, but I couldn't find anything that connected me to them, right? That's what I would have said. I would have just left it at that. The boom, bam, you did what you did. But then to be like, their mom died a long time ago, so I couldn't be. Girl, you couldn't. What? If their mama died the year before you were born, I mean the year after you were born, don't that mean that there's a high likelihood? Do you know what I'm saying? It was just giving very like, it was just giving very like, we're trying to make this better than we. Here's the problem. 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 They did not need to add it in because I think that the way they brought her in was perfectly fine without adding any specific details. So the way they write Paige into the story is that she is their long lost half sister. She is the daughter of their mother and her white lighter, again, who we met in season 2. So they explain it to us as when Patty got pregnant, her and her husband Victor were already separated. They were not together. And it was after your father and I had broken up when I was with Sam. And she got pregnant. Nobody knew apparently. And she gave birth to the baby behind Applebee's. And then they gave the baby up. They took the baby in the kitchen and said, girl, go figure it out. Here, go figure it out. Go do whatever it is you need to go do. We done got you a 2 for $20. Thank you, Crystal. Thank you. I don't know where Leia is. Leia has abandoned us. So it is what it is. They done Leia. I don't know where Leia is. For real. But no, they took my girl behind the Applebee's, gave her a 2 for $22, and they said, listen, we'll catch you when we catch you. So I have issues with the backstory as everything else, right? But I think that, thank you. But I really think that for what it was, for how they had to bring her in, how quickly they had to come up with this backstory, for how quickly they had to figure out like how do her powers work, for how quickly they had to like literally conceptualize a character, I think they did a good job. I do. For once in their life, for once in the writers' lives, they actually used some history properly for the most part. They actually use history properly for the most part. They talked about Sam. They brought in Patty and Grams. They had a whole little display. And so it's just like they didn't need to add extra little details. Like, oh, I couldn't have been related to them. I've been coming to this club for a year or however long she's been going there, and just so I can feel close to them. But there's no way I could be related to them. Girl, shut up. Thank you, Ryan. Like, y'all playing in my face now. Like, this is the part of the story where y'all are playing in my face. But that is okay. Paige's first year as a witch is, and we've talked about this before. I think we talked about this when we went over season 4, but Paige's first year as a witch is drastically different from her sister's first year as a witch. I mean, like, it's I wouldn't say night and day, but it's definitely beginning of nighttime, end of nighttime, right? So she comes in and she kind of has to take a couple of different mantles up from Prue, right? So she has to take the role in The Power of Three, number 1. She has to take the role of a sister from her, number 2. And then she has to take on different characteristics from her, like being headstrong. She has to take on different things like the storyline of like the oldest and the youngest sister kind of batting head sometimes. She has to take on the distrust of Cole. And that's just a lot. That's a lot to try to feel with one person who hasn't been in the story. And so I think that that's why when she gets there initially, I think they do a good enough job of really characterizing her to where we sort of, hello, Leia. Hello. Thank you, Ryan. Thank you. They do a good enough job of trying to characterize her to where we can connect to her somewhat, right? We connect enough to her to feel like she is a person, Like, she's an actual character outside of just being what is essentially within story. I want to make it very clear that I don't think that she is this. I am saying that for story purposes, she was essentially a replacement for a character, another character, right? So for that being her role, I think that they did a really good job with her. Now, here's the other part where I say she did not necessarily have an opportunity to have a great first year as a witch. We really didn't have a chance to get to know Paige, right? So I like to do a little comparison thing, right? So when we first meet the Piper, Prue, and Phoebe, and they become witches, what happens? They go up against Jeremy, who is wearing a sweater from The Gap, some khakis from JCPenney's, and some loafers from Banana Republic, right? That's their first demon. That's their first demon. That is the first demon that they vanquish. And they go out of their way to almost call the police. Because our girls are so inexperienced. They're green. They're wet behind the ears. Everything you can possibly think of, right? So their very first demon is one that they're putting thorns in the man because they don't know what else to do. They've never vanquished a demon before. And they're figuring it out as they go. So and I think that's a really good point for them in their first years being witches. They were figuring it out as they went. Like, they were figuring out how their powers worked. They were figuring out how to control them as they grew. They were trying to figure out just how to navigate life as witches, and not just witches, but the most powerful good witches of all time, in addition to being normal people. So they were navigating all of that, but they had themselves, and, you know, they had each other, and magic was kind of helping them to heal some of those old wounds, right? Okay, but they were coming together as a family, right? Okay, that's the main difference. When Paige gets there, Paige's first demon was Shax, a demon who had just unalived a charmed one. So we go from demons that are wearing Gap and Banana Republic to a demon who has just taken out a charmed one. And this is Paige's first demon right off the bat. That's that lady's first demon literally right off the bat. So I've seen some people be like, oh, Paige didn't even want to be a witch at first. Would you? Baby, would you? If the first demon you vanquished was this big huge blue man who was fine as fuck, but this big huge blue man who just unalived a sister that you never got a chance to meet, and he was so powerful that he is the source's right hand man. You think that I'm just gonna go in and be like, you know what? This is gonna be real fun. Girl, be for real. Be for real. Like, the reason I point that out and the reason I'm spending so much time on that is just to really reiterate that Paige's very first vanquish was not even this normal, like, oh my God, he's like a baby demon, we have to figure out what to do. Like, no. This was an upper level demon who worked specifically for the source. You know what I'm saying? So it's like her first moment of being a witch, she can't even process that she's a witch because and here's the other thing. She's not even just processing that she's a witch, right? She's not just processing that she has to vanquish demons. She's processing those things at the same time as finding out that she has to do this because she is related to these people. You see what I'm saying? That's a lot. That's a lot at one time. You have just found a family that you have been searching for years after your parents have gone on to wherever they went after they knocked that woman's wig off. Because baby, when that car got to rolling and that woman's wig got to knocking, girl, goddamn, It melted the woman's lace, y'all. It melted the woman's lace right off of her head to the point where the wig done went flying. The police are walking up to her after her parents' death with her mama's wig going, "Is this yours?" This is all we could say. And you are the only one. You are the only one. You are by yourself. You don't have any siblings. You don't, well, they kind of gave her family, but they didn't really. They told us she had some family and then said, girl, anyway, we're not really getting into all of that. But you are young. You're by yourself. You have to process this. You've been looking for these people and then you finally meet them. And then you don't even Paige didn't get a chance to actually connect with them because their connection was more out of necessity, if that makes sense. Like, I'm not saying that Piper and Phoebe didn't eventually come to love her. I am saying that they formed a bond with each other out of necessity, and we can just call it what it is. And here's the thing, it's not undermining her. It's not saying like, oh, Paige wasn't important. She was very important, because if she wasn't important, they wouldn't have needed to bond with her in any shape, form, or fashion. So what I'm saying is her connection to them was facilitated through something else, which, as we've already talked about in previous lives, is what affects her in season 5. Because in season 5, that thing that is like connecting them is not there anymore. There's nothing to facilitate them getting to know each other anymore. They're literally having to get to know each other as people, which is why I feel like after season 4, Paige just kind of essentially is there. You know what I mean? Like, at a certain point, she's just sort of there. Because what? Child, that's a whole other story. That's a whole other story. That is literally a whole other... Yes, I got the Tumblr from Pride. There was a booth and they were selling these tumblers, and it's so cute. It is so cute. And by the way, y'all, if I don't see everybody's comment, so Victor said, I disagree. Paige is the reason they could vanquish Cole. I feel like I get what you're saying, but I think that kind of the overall point of what I'm saying, she may have been the reason that they vanquished him. But I think what I'm saying is that their connection as sisters was going to be based on them as people now versus them as witches, I think is what I'm trying to get at. I might not maybe have explained that point the best, but what I'm saying, okay, let me go back. Let me double back. Let me double back to season 4. So season 4 is different from season 1 in another big way. Paige is having to very specifically learn how to use magic. She has to actively learn how to use magic, how to use her powers. She's having to actively learn about potions and spells and things like that. She's getting some field practice, of course. Like, there's some things that she can't be just taught in a classroom setting. But as a whole, Paige is essentially having to like get on the grind and go, right? And in the beginning of the show, Piper, Phoebe, and Prue, baby, they didn't have all that going on. They was just figuring it out as it went. I mean, you got Rex and Hannah attacking. Girl, you got Jeremy and his Banana Republic attacking. You got the shapeshifters turning their fingers into keys. And we learning life lessons about locking the doors and things like that. Like, those are just things...
26 p.m.
Girl, shut up. But those are just things that we learn as time goes on. Those are just things that they had to figure out on their own. But again, they had each other there to lean on and say like, girl, that was so stressful today. And it could be like, yeah, it really was. You know, like there's a difference in being able to talk to somebody about something in that moment that you both experienced for the same time versus you just experienced something for the first time and you went to go tell somebody and they were like, yeah, girl, they used to happen to us all the time. Do you know how isolating it is? Do you know how that almost puts you in a place where you don't even want to tell them because you don't even want to like get it? She did not have anybody to talk to. Like she really didn't. And not that her sisters weren't there to listen. It was just that typically she would be met with, we've been doing this longer than you. Yeah, that happened to us before. Yeah, when that happened to me, I had to get over it. So she never really gets a chance to process things in that moment, not even as herself, because they've already experienced it. And so she's literally in a completely different world from them. And then you have somebody, okay, so you got Piper on one hand, who is basically telling her like, how could you do this? You know, we've already done stuff like this. This is da-da-da-da. You should have listened to us. You should have blah, 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 blah. But Paige is not the kind of person who's just going to sit there and be like, you know what? Piper told me not to do that, so I'm not going to do that. No, Paige is the kind of person who's like, well, girl, I tried it and it didn't work out. But the two things aren't meshing because here's the big thing to remember in why Piper and Phoebe are like that. Because this is kind of the thing. This is kind of important, or is very important too. Piper and Phoebe, to me, I used to look at them and be like, why are y'all being so hard on her? But then I had to remember that they had just lost a sister and they were now having to go after the being that took their sister from them. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's one of those things where it's a weird dichotomy of Paige needing to learn how she does magic, needing to learn her own way, but then also being in a scenario where we really don't have time for you to learn your own way. We really don't have time for you to be up here experimenting with magic and switching bodies and doing stuff like that. Because girl, we we got to go. So it's like but two things can be true at once. You know what I mean? Like, and then their white lighter here's the thing. Okay. Leo, I'm not going to make the statement I want to make because I want to go back and watch the whole season before I make a statement like that. I am going to say that I do not think that Leo was an effective teacher in Paige's training as a white lighter. Because I also think he wasn't effective with them, right? So it's not like it's just her. He literally was not there for Piper, Phoebe, and Prue when they first became witches. Literally was not there. Like, not even just like, oh, he was there, but he wasn't doing anything. He actually physically was not in their lives. And then when he did enter their lives, he was not there in the capacity of a white lighter to them. He was a white lighter at them. So he was working in the background, right? So he never really was a good white lighter to them in the first place. That's number one. So when Paige comes around, it's not really shocking. Like, he could have, bare minimum, Leo could have just taught her how to orb. That's it. He could have taught her how to orb. I didn't need him to do anything else because what else could he do at that point? Because he's Leo and he's useless. Like, Leo, he literally could have taught the lady how to orb and he could not even do that. No, he could have. He didn't. He did not even do that. And Paige was out here having to learn the orb on her own. Let's not forget, it's not until midway in the season that Paige orbs on her own from one room to another. Mid-season. That is the first time that she intentionally orbs from one room to another. And Leo was just sitting there looking at her like, oh, okay. Piper was the one who was like, oh my God, that's so great that she can orb now. That lady was having to figure that out on her own. And I'm finna make some people mad. I know, and I'm so sorry. But when people say like Piper taught Paige how to be a witch, let's be 100% honest. Piper did not teach Paige how to be a witch. Piper and Phoebe taught Paige different elements and things in the moment that she needed to know. But as far as what being a witch was as a whole, my girl had to learn it on her own. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? And Paige is a good Paige is the reason, and I'm gonna be honest. I'm gonna be honest with you. Paige is the reason that they made Piper into the potions master. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. 10K likes. Oh, we already at 10K likes. Look at y'all. Y'all up there just giving carpal tunnel. Just. And so here's the thing. So I see where someone said that being a witch for them is different. That's what I mean when I say like they didn't teach her. Okay. Let me get my words right. Because I really want to make my point, and I want to be concise with it. I don't want to ramble. When I make that statement, I am talking to the people who specifically cite them as her being the witch that she is, right? I'm talking to those people who are like, well, Paige wouldn't have known, Paige wouldn't have known. No, Paige would have figured it out. And that's fine. What I am saying is that Piper and Phoebe did not teach her. They did not sit her down at Hogwarts and teach her how to be a witch because we went through a potions class once. I'm sorry. That's not what happened. You know. Now, did they guide her in things? Absolutely. More than her white lighter did. 100%. I bring that up to say, and I know, why am I spending so much time on that? I'm going through this mentally while I'm talking about this so much, because there's a point I'm trying to get to, and I want to put it out. But I need to figure out what the point. I think the point of what I'm trying to say is that I think people discredit Paige a lot. And they do it in a small way, which is saying that they taught her how to be a witch, and she's only a witch because they showed her how to be one. That's the point I think I'm trying to... Hey, godmother. I think that's the point I'm trying to get to. I think that's where this whole little side tangent is coming from, right? And I agree that there's only so much they could teach her without her learning from experience. I 100% agree with that. And I think that that's why I got into this whole little like thing that doesn't make sense, that didn't really make sense, because when I hear people talk about Paige, typically it's like, oh, well, she's only as good at potions because Piper taught her. She's only good at this because Phoebe taught her. She's only good because they taught her how to be a witch. When I really don't think that that's true. I think that giving someone the basics of something is fine, but them excelling at it is something that's based on their personal talent. Like, I can tell you all day long the technicalities of something, but that doesn't mean that you're going to be able to replicate that in everyday function. You know what I mean? And I guess that's my way of trying to give props where props are due, because in the midst of there not really being time for her to figure out how to be a witch, she still learned how to be her own witch in some shape, form, or fashion. And I'm saying that because Paige really is a character who is headstrong, and she is her own person. And she is it's hard trying to be your own person, because I agree with what someone said that that Paige was trying to be Prue. I think that's a lot of why maybe Piper and Paige butt heads a couple of times, is because they're both subconsciously trying to be Prue, but they have different versions of what Prue is, but both versions are like these godlike figures. Because Piper is trying to hold herself to the ideal of big sister Prue, right? So she's trying to fill a role that she thinks that Prue was in their lives. She was the grounding force. She was the protector. She was the one who they could lean on. She was the one who was always there. She was the one who was the rock of their family. That's how Piper sees her. She sees her as this like monolithic being who is just above everyone else, right? But then because her and Phoebe see Prue like that, what they're giving to Paige subconsciously, non-verbally, whatever else, is how amazing Prue was, right? Excuse me, as a witch. So how great. So that's what I mean when I said like they're trying to reach two different versions of her. Piper's trying to reach big sister level, and then Paige is trying to reach super witch level. And she's trying to be the witch who can do it all. She's trying to be the witch who can vanquish the demons by herself. She's trying to be the witch who can follow a hunch and go get things done. And she's trying to be the witch who can X, Y, and Z. And so trying to live up to two versions of the same person is bound to make you butt heads. And I think that we even see it in small moments, like when what is the name of the episode? Size Matters, with the coin toss, right? Coin toss? Coin toss. I'm telling y'all, I'm talking fast. My nerves are bad. In a good way. My nerves are bad in a good way. I am enjoying this, and I feel like my brain is trying to make multiple points at one time. So just follow me. Child, just go with me. Just go with me, child. We see it in little moments like that where Piper is trying to take control, right? She's trying to take control of the situation in a way that she knew Prue would. Prue would be the one who would say, this is what we're doing. This is what we're going to try. This is where it's going. This is how we're going to save Phoebe. Boom. Right? That is the version of Prue that Piper is looking at when she is thinking how we are going to handle this situation. Paige, who is naturally headstrong, the way Prue was, because let's remember, that way of thinking is not natural to Piper. Girl, Prue wasn't going to do no coin toss. Coin toss. Why am I okay? Am I having a stroke? What is happening? My God. But no, girl, Prue wasn't finna do no coin toss. Prue wasn't finna do that. If this is what I said we're gonna do to girl, this is what we're gonna do. It ain't no questions about it. And Piper is trying to live up to that because that's not the person she naturally is. Paige, however, is. And she has really, really good instincts. She has very good instincts. And she trusts those instincts enough that maybe we should at least explore this. But she's also trying to find that middle ground with Piper, because let's remember, Paige is trying to live up to this version of Prue that's a super witch. So she's trying to make sure that she can use magic to do what she needs to do. You know what I mean? Boom. So those two things conflict in that moment. And then it's like, okay, well, we gotta toss a coin now, you know? Because what else? What else we gonna do in this moment? And that's what I mean when I say like it's those kind of things where their versions of living up to Prue conflict. And it's those moments where they're both trying to do the same thing, get the same results, but from a different, you know. Megan said, was Prue a super witch though? No, she was not. That's the thing that's, I think, another important factor in their stories is Prue was not the super witch that they make her out to be. Let me say that. They make Prue out to be like she was essentially Superman who could do no wrong. Like, if you listen to Piper and Phoebe at certain points in the story after Prue goes on to the underworld, child, you would think that woman could walk on water. You would think that that lady literally could turn water into wine. That she could make loaves of bread and make fish out of stones. So when I say she wasn't a super witch, she wasn't a super witch in the way that they made her out to be. Because again, it's not like we didn't see Prue on screen. If Prue was someone that we hadn't seen on screen, there could be an argument to be made. But what they made her out to be was not. We went over this yesterday when we talked about Phoebe, right? And how in Sympathy for the Demon, her and Piper are saying, we didn't take Barbas out. Prue did. And then we went over both times that Prue went against Barbas, and she literally was not the one who took him out. It was just kind of like circumstance. The first time, our girl used her power on him, and then he went on back down, right? Because she conquered her fear. Okay, that's cute. The second time, girl, we just waited until the clock struck 12. So, I'm not saying any of this to downplay Prue or to say that she wasn't a good witch or a very powerful witch, because clearly she was. My point in this is that they're both trying to live up to impossible versions of her. Like at one point when Lily is talking to them, he says, you weren't here, because he asked about the demon of illusion, and he's like, oh, that was before your time, during Prue. During? What do you mean during Prue? Now I know some people have offered me explanation, but as to why he said that. But my point is, like, when I hear during in front of something, I'm thinking about like during Prohibition, during the stock market crisis, during medieval times, during something very specific. And to talk about her and say during her, she was an era in time to them, right? And he didn't say during Prue's era, though. He specifically said during Prue, as if she was the era. Because saying, okay, well, back in, your grandfather's day, it was whatever. Talking about somebody's day is different than saying during X. Hey, Beezy. Hey, Beezy. Hey. What's up? What's up, bro? What's up, bro? Let me stop. Shut up, Troydale. Shut up. And I mean, shut it up now. But no. But no, I bring all of that up to say, shut up, Leia and Blake. But no, I bring all of this up to say that Prue not set, because Prue was an impossible standard for them. It was very subtle. Listen, customize your life. Listen, Beezy knows that he's my man. That's not my man, okay? And so I be trying not to look like a bird. I be trying not to look desperate. But I just want him to know I'm available. You know what I mean? Let me stop. Before I make that man uncomfortable. He knows I'm joking. Or am I? But no, for real. That's what's so important to keep in mind during season 4, because one of the things that I've seen people kind of say is that, and I've seen this before. I have actually seen before people say that Paige was trying too hard to be Prue. Here's another thing that I think we really need to keep in mind. And I'm not saying this like to throw shade at her. I am saying that they literally needed Prue, essentially. Whether that be as a third sister, whether that be as someone who could carry their weight in the team, whether that be whatever that is. They literally needed that in the moment. So it's one thing to say she was trying too hard to be her, and I think it's another thing to acknowledge the fact that they literally needed that in the, and not just because like, oh, what are we gonna do against the Source without Prue, right? Not just that, but they have lost a very valuable part of their team, because outside of being sisters, outside of being witches, they are a team. They work together. They bring different things. They bring different perspectives. And Prue typically was the one who was the muscle. Prue was typically the one who came up with the plan, except for when Phoebe would, because it was kind of a toss-up between Prue and Phoebe sometimes. But that's why when I'm seeing people say stuff like that. Now, let me say this, because I know that was probably a very generic statement. Y'all, I've been talking about Charmed online for quite some time. I've done many a live. I have done many a tweet. I have done many a post. I have done many a. So I may not be able to pull something up and say, this is where this person said this to me specifically. But when I tell y'all someone has said something to me, I am telling you, I have heard the range of comments. I have heard the range of from I love her to I hate her. I have heard she was so necessary to she was unnecessary. And I have seen so many different perspectives on her. Some that I didn't agree with, some that I did. And that's what's given me this love for her, is being able to put those things together, watch it, and perceive the show the way I perceive it versus this person and that person. And so when I come here, and I'm talking to y'all, I am in no way trying to tell people like, oh, you should like Paige because I like her. If you don't like Paige, girl, there's a good chance you're not gonna like her when I get done talking. But hopefully I can at least give you a little bit of different perspective on her, because my baby was going through it. She really was. My baby was going through it. She was out here in the world alone for quite some time, hurting, trying to find this other piece to herself. And then when she does find this other piece to herself, it comes with this heartbreak and turmoil. And I think Paige taught them that not everything is black and white. Sometimes you can't just lean on the understanding that you have about something, because Paige really did bring fresh perspective to them. And it wasn't as stale. And she brought in a new avenue because she was half white lighter. So she had a different outlook on being a witch than them because of her pacifist side, but also just because she was smart. And her distrust for Cole, here's the thing. While I do think that all of them had good instincts, I think some of them had sharper instincts than others. And I think that Paige is one of the ones who had really good sharp instincts. And that could be, because she grew up by herself, and so she had to be self-sufficient, and it was a combination of her being a white lighter and having that heritage, so she kind of naturally had an intuition about her, things like that, right? So there's so many things that make it like our girl was on point. Our girl was absolutely 100% like on point most of the time. There were times, of course, where everyone stumbles, because it's like, not everyone's intuition is going to be right all the time. But her distrust of Cole, while on the surface you could say that it comes from the writers just needed to fill that hole of Prue being distrustful of her, I think it really came from the fact that like Paige came in, and then Paige is coming in as an outsider. So if I come into the group and then you start telling me that this woman is shacking up with a demon, she what? She huh? Because remember too, when it comes to Cole, Paige did not have the time to see him in the light that they did, right? So they had known him for over a year. So they had seen him go from like this big ADA to being, you know, Balthazar, to being essentially a homeless demon and all this and that. So they went through, especially Piper, right? She's gone through these transformation periods with him, and she's seen him at least want to be good. Whether he can be or not is up for debate, but she's seen that in him before. And she knows that, and she's willing to just support Phoebe because, girl, we got other things that's going on right now. We really ain't got time for that, right? Paige is coming into it after all that has happened, after he has defected from evil, after he has come to save a charmed one, and Phoebe done faked the man's death and all this and that. After all of that, that's when Paige comes in. And she's meeting him, and all she hears is, he's a demon. He what? Girl, he huh? And then I see his demonic side, and it literally looks like a demon. Huh? Then I'm meeting a person who has been directly affected by this man. You see what I'm saying? Like, even when he becomes human, I feel like there's still that part of Paige who's looking at him like, girl, does that just go away because you ain't got your powers? You know what I'm saying? Like that always stays with her. So then once he becomes a demon again and he starts being shady and shifty, Paige is looking at him like, something ain't right. Paige goes back into what she already felt before, which is that something isn't right. She's not looking at Cole as a brother-in-law. That's never how she sees him. She never sees that man as a brother-in-law. Not the way Piper does. Piper and her concubine are the ones that are like, well, he's a part of this family now. And not Paige had a daddy. Oh my God. You know what though? Okay. Okay. I am a person who comes from a household with an absent father, right? I did not grow up with a father in the household. And I'm not speaking for the trees. I'm not the fatherless Lorax, okay? I'm not speaking for the other fatherless trees, okay? I don't know necessarily that I would connect those two. However, I do think that may have impacted a little bit of how she viewed that. And I was going to say we'll talk about it in a minute, but I want to talk about it now before I forget. I'm not a big proponent of people saying like, oh, because someone doesn't have a father in the house, that they are X, Y, and Z. Because as a rainbow flavored man, there are a lot of people who will believe that I am rainbow flavored because I did not have a father that grew up in the house, right? Now, that I want to point that out first to say that I do not think that those things directly influence certain parts of us. In Paige's case, I don't know that it influenced necessarily her distrust of Cole, but I could see where it would influence the pick-me-ness of Phoebe. The way she viewed it. Paige had a lot of men. A lot. Like, let's just be honest about it. Paige had especially in season 5, my girl was getting it in. Figuratively and literally. Like, she was cutting up. But there was always a level of sort of control in her relationships to where it was, if she didn't get chose, if she didn't get chose, she was fine. Now, why do I say that? Why do I use that specific phrase? Because, you know, when we talked about Piper and Phoebe, if you were here, one of the things we said is that our girls were pick-me's who wanted to get chose. And not in the way of like they were twerking on the internet. They wanted a man to pick them over something else, right? Paige did not need nor require that. And it could have been for a multitude of reasons. It could have been because her father maybe was a certain way, and that's just the image that she had of a man in her life. Paige and Kyle is a very strange situation to me, and I 100% agree that that was an outlier in everything that I'm saying. Paige and Kyle, to me, I am going to be 100% honest with you, felt like an attempt to give Paige, the youngest sister, is a screw up who loves this man so deeply storyline, and it doesn't, I don't want to say it doesn't make sense for her, because I do think with her being so headstrong, I can see how we would get there, but at the same time, I feel like that was their attempt at the way she was riding that man. No, for real. She was literally snaking on that man's weenie. She was snaking on it. Like, I remember the first time I saw it, I was watching it live. And I remember, hey Luna, I remember literally thinking to myself that I was watching like softcore corn. Corn. Because I was like, why is this lady riding this man like this? That man was fine though. I mean, he was. Let's just be honest. And girl, I'm a bigger person. So I'm not necessarily capable of things like that. However, if I was, girl. Anyway, let me hush. So let me get back to the point. Because I just feel like I got so off topic, and I feel like it was Leia's fault. Anywho, so back to that point, I'm trying to be, I might sound like I'm dancing around it a little bit. I'm really trying to be careful with how I address that, because again, I don't want to put too much of my own bias into it, but I also don't want to discount the fact that, discount or discredit? Discredit. I'm going to use the word discredit. I'm going to say discredit. I also don't want to discredit the fact that it may have affected really the way that she did interact with the world. I don't want to walk away from that and pretend like it's not a thing, because that's another big part of who Paige is that Piper and Phoebe do not have, which is that Paige grew up in a nuclear family. She did. She just didn't grow up with siblings. So she didn't grow up with, you know, let me call my oldest sister because she's going to help me do this. Oh, let me call my baby sister in here so I can tell. She didn't grow up with none of that. It was just Paige. But at the same time, she had two parents in the household. They had a routine. They went to school. Mom and dad, you know, whatever. But then you have to address the fact that she may have felt different because she was adopted. So that may have kept her little bubble of normalcy always deflating just a little bit, right? So then we got Piper and Phoebe on the other side of the spectrum, who grew up without that at all. So they had sisters, they had each other to talk to about how they were feeling, but they didn't have that nuclear unit. So they both were missing something from each other that, you know what I mean? Like it's like it's right there and they can never get to it. You know, Paige didn't have that sisterhood, but she had the family unit, but she was also adopted. So we don't know how that affected her, how she looked at it. Then you got Piper and Phoebe, who had the sisterhood, and they were growing up in the family that they were born into, but they didn't have that nuclear unit. So you see how my girls were clashing? Just even from a background standpoint. And I think that's why Paige always feels a little bit separate from them, is because she's different than them. She doesn't have the same story as them, and she grew up with the parents that were taking her and signing her field trip notice and her this and that and giving her money for lunch and blah 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 blah. And she didn't grow up with a grandmother who married so many different men, apparently, that we'll never know their names. And she had to hex a ring so so that she didn't lose herself. You know, she didn't have that. She also did not have the ability to go look at her family tree. But they could. Well, maybe. I don't know. I'm assuming they could. But it's like she had such a different life than them. And then LaShawn said in one episode, she literally said, I already had a grams. Exactly. Paige has had a grandmother. Paige has had a father. She's had a mother. She's had an X. She's had a Y. She's had a Z. And they've never had a father like that. They didn't have a mother like that. And they were raised by their grandmother, which is a different experience from being raised by a parent. And it can at least make you see things differently. Why do I keep bringing up little stuff like permission slips? Why do I keep bringing stuff like that up? Just as a little background for me, I, like I said, am a person who grew up in a single parent household, right? But more than that, I have also I've worked in the child welfare system for a number of years, and I have experienced working with children, hearing different things that I never would have gotten perspective on had I not worked with those children. And when I first started working there, and I first started working in that field, I was a very naive person. And I only saw the world from one specific viewpoint, right? And an example of that for me was I was working with this little girl, and she was telling me that her mama was at work when something had happened. I was like, at work? I was like, but it was like 8 o'clock at night. She was like, yeah, I know. My mama was at work. And my mama, when I was growing up, did not have a job where she worked during the night. She worked during the day. So she worked for the school system. So when she was off work, I was out of school. I never had a time where she wasn't there. I never had a time where, I had to make sure to lock the doors or anything like that. And what I had to realize in myself was that gave me, and I'm just going to use this word, that gave me a privilege that I had never even considered. Something I had never thought of. Something that had never, I had never even considered how that was making me judgmental towards other people. Because in my mind, I'm thinking like, how the hell was your mama at work at 8 o'clock at night? Because it wasn't clicking in my brain that people have to do what they have to do to survive, because they don't always work at a school. Some people don't work like that. Some people have to get the job that they can get, and that affects their ability to provide the same schedule that I had when I was, so you see what I'm saying? It's a perspective thing. And once I heard those kids saying that, and I was listening to children who were raised by grandparents and aunts and uncles, and children whose parents had passed away, children whose parents just weren't there, children who had, siblings at their, thank you, Leah, children who had siblings at their school that their other parent would be there for, but they weren't there for them. That made me see life and the way that people interact with the world in a completely different way. And I think that's really important in understanding Paige, is that Paige has that background. Paige has a social work background. She has the nuclear unit background. She has those things that show her the worst of the worst in a different way than what she's already seen. Now she's seeing demons and all these other whatevers. But Paige is a character who for years at this point has been seeing children be abused. She's been trying to get kids into, you know, specific schools and things like that. Paige has had to work with parents who will beat the other parent to stop them from being able to get custody of a child. Paige has had to work with those kind of, when you have I think that's why she almost settles into being a witch so easily. What word am I looking for? Easily. Not easily. I don't want to say easily. I'm going to say once she does settle into being a witch, I think that's the reason she's able to settle into it. Is like, well, I've never seen the worst of the worst of the human world, child. Maybe it'll be a little release for me if I can go ahead and take out some of the demons. Maybe if I can take out some of the evil in the world, child, that'll make me feel like I've done something at the end of the day. And I think that's why she takes demon hunting so seriously, is because exactly, Crystal, she really naturally wants to help people. Hey, Nia. She naturally wants to help people. That's what she's there for. And I think that's also a big reason why we see her get burned out in later seasons. Because especially after Piper and Phoebe got burned out after season 3, that's why we see Paige eventually get burned out. And you can really see it in season 7. Season 7, I think, is when you really start to see like that our girl is focusing more on being a white lighter. Because I think the witch side of her is just like, girl, I can't. The witch side is like, I can't do this anymore. Because Paige, one moment that always stands out to me when I think about Paige in the later seasons is when she cast that spell on that man to protect him, and Piper's like, girl, what are you talking about? There's no such thing as a protection spell. And Paige is like, girl, listen, Phoebe ain't got her powers, and I don't know what else to tell you. I don't know what else to tell you. That lady ain't got her powers. I don't know where this man gonna be, and I can't be the one to follow him around all day, even though I ain't got no job. Girl, I'm finna cast a protection spell on him, and he gonna be all right. And I think that shows just how tired she was of not saving innocence, but literally just of doing what she was doing. It burned her out. And I think that's another reason that we see her gravitate towards Kyle, is I think that in that moment, it was like, well, girl, I mean, I believe him. So we just gonna have to figure something out. Because the reason too that it's important to bring up Paige being a white lighter, these people had Paige pulling double duty. This woman was not just expected to be a charmed one. This woman was also expected to be a white lighter. She was expected to guide and lead. She was expected to put her life on hold because somebody else is calling, while at the same time having to fight demons. Like, girl, what? That's a lot. I couldn't even imagine. And the thing is, I think that she's good at both of them, but she focuses on them at different times. But I would say Paige kind of enjoyed being a white lighter a little bit more. But I think it's also very telling that by season 8, our girl does not even want to have magic anymore. Now we're getting somewhere. Because let's think about it. At the end of season 4, Piper and Phoebe, who are understandably burned out by magic, girl, they want to give it up. They are ready to walk away and say, you can have him. and say, you can absolutely 100% have it. We don't want this anymore. And Paige is the one who was adamant. Phoebe, who in season 1, girl, Phoebe was mad when they had to get their powers up. You see how it keeps looping? You see how the evolution happens? Phoebe in season 1 hated the fact that they had to give their powers up to Rex and Hannah. Hated it. By season 4, gone. She was like, girl, take them. From whence they came, return them now. Paige in season 4, when she got there, was ready to fight to keep her powers, but she couldn't because her sisters were going to overrule her. But they ended up keeping them in the end anyway. And then in season 8, 4 years later, take them. Take them. Girl, we done faked our magical deaths. We out here living life. Honey, we got whole other faces. I just want to be myself. I want to be young. Huh? That's not Paige. That's not the Paigeana LaTanya Matthews that we got introduced to. This is not the girl who by the end of season 4 was so excited about being a witch. Why does she want to give up her identity? And then, if we just gonna keep it 100% a buck, it's not even like she wanted her powers back and wanted to be like able to openly practice magic or anything like that. She just wanted to be herself. The magic was a part of who she was, but she got tired of the fake identity because she got tired of not being herself. Because here's the thing. Paige loves herself in a good way. In a way that I don't know that the other sisters do. And I'm not fully sure where I want to go with that yet. I'm not fully sure what that means in my mind. But that's something that comes to me when I think about that. Is Paige wanted to be herself. She wanted to meet these men as Paige. Oh, 24K likes. Look at y'all. Look at y'all. Y'all over there just getting carpal tunnel. Y'all over there getting carpal tunnel. Just locking alive. Thank you. But no, and I think it's a good thing. And I'm not saying that the other sisters don't love themselves. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that I think she's confident in herself in a way that it took its toll on her to not be able to be the person that she had worked up to be. That's the point I'm trying to make, but I'm not fully sure yet where I want to go with that. So I'm just going to hush, but I'll probably circle back around to it because there's a point in there that I'm missing. I don't know what it is yet. I don't know what that point is yet. But Paige, that's why I love Paige's character, because we do see her go through so much. We go, oh, your discussions really help break down. So I'm like, oh, thank you. God, do I follow you? Oh, thank you. Thank you, KP. Let me follow you. I appreciate that. That makes me feel okay. Cause y'all, listen, I told y'all, your boy was talking fast cause your boy is nervous. Whenever I get into doing these discussions, child, I be getting nervous that I don't make sense because I tend to talk fast sometimes. Thank you, Leia. I tend to talk fast sometimes. I tend to think of 2 and 3 different points at once. And then the ADHD kicks in. And girl, I don't be knowing what I'm talking about at that point. So thank you for that. I appreciate that. There was a live on Prue, Piper, and Phoebe. Those are on my YouTube. They call me Mr. G. You can find that in the link in my bio. And I have all of them already uploaded. So you can just go click away. And some of my previous ones are available on YouTube. But not all of them, because for some reason, I don't know. I don't know. Oh God, let me look at my notes to see what I want to go on to now. Let me look at my notes. Oh God. But to go back, I think, to season 4, and then we're going to kind of wrap up season 4, and then everything else will just kind of be like, her journey in season 4 is one where she's constantly having to take off work right? So that she can do things with them, or it gets caught up in her job. Now, why is that significant? That's kind of a return to form for Charmed, with it interfering with your job, because by season 3, Prue is an entrepreneur. Well, not an entrepreneur. She's not an entrepreneur. She's followed her passion, but her passion has led her to a job where she's not necessarily on a clock 24/7, if that makes any sense. So like, she's not clocked in, clocked out like she was at Buckland's, right? But then Piper owns her own club. So Piper doesn't have a boss. Piper doesn't have someone that she answers to, whatever else. Phoebe just doesn't have a job. So there's not that level of like, our work is being interrupted anymore the way it was when we were at Quake and the way that it was when we were at Buckland's. It's a completely different feel. So when Paige comes in and she's at work, or she's having to take off work, or she's late for work, we get back to that feel of what it was like for them to have to rush in and out of the office and do this and do that, which again separates her from them until Phoebe gets a job. Because now Phoebe is the one who's having to turn stuff in late, or Phoebe is the one who's having to X, Y, and Z. And for some reason, I feel like the show at a certain point had a thing about like, one of the sisters has to be unemployed. I don't know. I just feel like the end of season 4, when all 3 of them had a job, somebody in the writer's room was like, no ma'am. Somebody in the writer's room was like, somebody was like, no ma'am, we're not doing that. And there's no way that we're finna sit here and we're finna let all 3 of them be employed at one time. That's not happening. But anyway, that's a whole other discussion, child. That's just me with somebody got to be available. Exactly. Somebody got to be available, because it was always Phoebe. We got to have somebody be here. So that's another part of Paige's character. And I think that by the end of season 4, we have what I'm going to use the word iconic within the realm of Charmed. I think that it is one of the more iconic scenes at the end of Long Live the Queen, when all 3 of them are laying on the bed holding her, when they're, comforting Phoebe after they vanquish Cole. To me, I think that was an iconic scene within the franchise. Now, I could be wrong, but I'm going to say that because I think that was one of their really good displays of them bonded. That was one of the good displays of their sisterhood. That's me personally. But I could be wrong, and someone might be like, you stupid idiot, if you actually watch the show, it wasn't actually iconic, you moron. And to that I say, your mama. But anyway, so getting into the later seasons, getting into like season 5, 6, 7, and 8, here is BZ, I ain't thought nothing about that. Why are you doing this? We're gonna go back to that after the discussions. How about that? Like, once we get done with these deep dives, we'll go back to that. And somebody else can hold me accountable. Because at one point when we reached 30K, I was doing like an improv scene or something like that, I think. So once we get done with the deep dives, then we'll return to form. Okay? Okay. All right. Y'all can you can hold me to that. And that's a fact, Jack. No, so in later seasons, this goes back to what I was talking about earlier. And what I kind of prematurely started to talk about. In season 4, the glue that brought them together was vanquishing the source, right? It was vanquishing the source. It was coming together after Prue. It was trying to reconstitute the power of 3. There was a reason. There was something that necessitated their relationship. You can actually sort of feel the disconnect a little bit from Paige after they actually vanquish the source. So you can kind of feel it then. But he was still lurking about, right? After they vanquish him and they go into the 3 faces of Phoebe, I think that's when they kind of can go back into normal sort of routines, because we don't have to worry about this, from their perspective, we don't have to worry about the source being around every, lurking around every corner. We don't have to think about those kind of things. And what you end up seeing is Paige feeling like she's not part of the group. Like, we even have an episode called The 5th Halley Wheel. And again, that's because Paige is now an outcast again. She's back to kind of being like the other one. And to me, that's only exacerbated in season 5, because now the source is really, really gone. Hold on one second, y'all. Let me just double check and make sure that was my sister. Give me one quick second, y'all. Y'all may be wondering, what's going on right now? Is everything okay? Is he being attacked? No, my sister just got home. And I just wanted to make sure no one had broken in or anything like that. It was just my sister. So, we're good. All right. So, where was I? Talking about the end of season 4. So, season 5, going into season 5. The feel of the show, listen, it got me paranoid because I was like, girl, freeze, kick, send flying. Boom. What are we going, y'all, what do we do when a bad guy comes in? I'm going to freeze him and I'm going to move him. 8. Absolute 8. 6, 7, 8. Anyway, okay. Couldn't let that moment go. I'm gonna freeze him. No. But we see in season 5, run like the wind. But no, we're gonna we see in in season 5, for the first time, they don't have that connective tissue anymore. They don't have the source. They don't have this overarching threat. There's just them. They are people. Excuse me. And they are living their lives. They are just being themselves. Now, I think that Phoebe is the one who bonded with Paige the most, kind of like as a sister. Because, thank you, C. Smith. Just because of the person, thank you, Envy. Just because of the person that Phoebe was, just because, thank you, Troynell. I appreciate you. Just because of the person that Phoebe was, and just because they had that to bond over, that they were the younger sisters. And Phoebe, whether they ever really go into it or not, I think Phoebe always wanted a younger sister. That's why she bonded with Aviva. That's why she bonded with Jenny. That's why she is much better with she's good with these younger characters, because she can find that window into them, into being an older sister. And that's how Phoebe approaches Paige. And I think that's why they're so close in season 5, but she still doesn't know that she's claustrophobic. Because even though she's close to her and they're good friends, and Phoebe does consider her a sister, she still doesn't know anything about her, because they haven't really had the need to get to know each other, the time to get to know each other. And I think that when it all blows over, the stuff with the source and with Cole and whatever, by the time it all blows over, what we're left with is Phoebe and Piper still being sisters like they've always been, and them just seeing Paige as a sister but not realizing that they don't know her as a person, not realizing that they have no idea who she actually is. Thank you for the 30K likes. Thank you, hussies. Y'all are just over there just boom, 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 boom. Let's take a quick little break. Let's take a quick little moment. If you would like to subscribe to my YouTube, where you can see previous lives, including the ones that we did on Prue, Piper, and Phoebe, then please head on over to the YouTube. They Call Me Mr. G. The link is in my bio. You can find that there. I am currently in the process of revamping the kind of content that I'm making. So the posts may seem like they're not really the most regular right now, but it's coming. Like, it's coming. I'm trying to revamp the way I approach the page, and there we go. But more Charmed content is coming. Just be on the lookout for that. You can also go to my Patreon. You can look that up. I don't know why I'm so nervous to plug the Patreon for some reason, child, but for some reason I am. Please just go look around. See if it's something you like. Just go look around and see if there's something there that you like. I'll probably give y'all some more details on it. But no, I do have Charmed content on the Patreon. I'm doing a Charmed rewatch currently for the patrons of my Warren line tier. I'm thinking about bringing Charmed ASMR back, but I'm not 100% sure yet if I'm going to. But yeah, so there's just so many different things that you can find there, and I'm hoping that you find something that you like. So back to our regularly scheduled program. Phoebe is, I think, also the most willing to give Paige grace, even though she still gets annoyed when she does stuff like the Barbie situation in sympathy for the demon, right? So the fact that Phoebe gets really kind of pressed, but she's still showing her that grace of saying like, okay, just let me start looking in the book right now and it'll be okay. Whereas Piper is just going in, right? I think those little kind of moments show that Phoebe is aware of how you need to mess up and we're going to mess up. I love your analysis. Oh, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. She knows that you're going to mess up, but she's still annoyed by it because it's something that they told Paige not to do, right? Now, that episode, I do agree, Charlene, they were absolutely horrible to her. And the thing about Barbie's thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you for the corn. The thing about that whole situation with Barbas manipulating them, with Barbas, making them really make Paige do what she wanted to do. Oh God, he was playing them like a fiddle. When I tell you that man was playing them like a video game, a novice level video game, and he was a master. My God in heaven, he was playing into her fears, he was playing into their fears, which is his point. But what I'm saying is it goes so deep because we start to see like, oh, now we see what we mean. Piper is scared that things are finna blow up. Just things are going really good right now. She doesn't want them to blow up. Okay, well, Phoebe is scared to go back into evil because, girl, I done already turned evil once. I'm not trying to get back up in there again, and he plays on them and he forces them for the first time to acknowledge these things in their life. And what's so interesting about that episode is that the second half is where we see Piper and Phoebe's main fear come to life, right? So that's where we see Phoebe have to accept the fact that she's scared that she is the one that's evil, not the men that come into contact with her, but her, right? That's the end of the episode, is where we have to see Piper accept the fact that she is scared of what's going to happen because of what happened to her parents. And when you think about it from that perspective, Paige really didn't have like a big role in the show, out in that episode, outside of bringing the powers to Barbas. But when you get into it, the whole thing was set up by Paige's fear herself. The entire situation was brought up by the fact that this lady was afraid that she needed to, or thought that she needed to prove herself to her sisters. The whole thing got started because of her fears. The entire situation gets started because of her fear. And she has to face the fact, girl, I can't keep trying to be Prue. Because nobody's expecting her to be. That's the thing about it. And that's what I think is the most frustrating thing in life, is when you don't realize something until the last minute, and you realize no one is putting that expectation on you except you. Piper and Phoebe don't need her to be the third charmed one anymore, because they really don't need anything from her. She's just kind of there. But they don't need anything from each other anymore. They are just sort of there in each other's lives. And Paige is now having to confront the fact that she's been trying to be Prue this whole time, and that's not necessary anymore. And no one is requiring that of her. No one is asking her that of her. No one is expecting that of her except for her. And that's why the scene where Piper, where anybody worth their salts is gonna laugh at that scene when Piper's like, you can do it, praying did it. And everybody, and then Phoebe's kind of looking at her like, girl, did you just really say it out loud? And then it's like, and Piper just kind of looks over her like, girl, shut the hell up. The episode is such a good moment for the both of them. Not just because that's the moment, one of the first moments that I think Piper truly steps up in the way that people classically kind of say she stepped up as a big sister, right? I don't think that was Piper stepping up as a big sister. I think that was Piper stepping up as a confident, knowledgeable person who was able to see the strength in another person and bring that to the forefront. And to me, that was a good sister moment for them. It wasn't that Piper was the oldest sister, it's that she was a sister. Girl, snap out of this. You know you can do it. Girl, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to needle you about the fact that Prue did it. But I'm telling you that she could do it, and so can you. I am telling you that you are just as capable of doing it as that lady was back in the cut. Okay? I believe in you. Now do it, goddammit. You see what I'm saying? Because when she says it, Paige is like, Paige kind of looks at her like, what did you just say? But that is, again, I think an example of Piper and Paige knowing each other in a way that they may not have even realized. They knew how to get at each other. And in that same way that Prue and Phoebe used to know how to get at each other, so do Piper and Paige. They know how to get the best out of the other one. They know how to do it. And that moment when she orbs the potion into his mouth, I think really teaches her, okay, I don't have to be Prue because I can be me. I don't have to do the same things that Prue did because I'm capable of those things, but I'm capable of them in my own way. And that's why by the end of the episode, she relaxes so much that she's able to to do the doves, which is one of the weirdest parts of that show, right? Like, what was Prue summoning animals for? Like, let's be for real. Why was Prue summoning animals, child? But anyway, that's neither here nor is it there, child. That ain't got nothing to do with nothing. That's a story for a different day, I suppose. And I see what y'all are saying, and I absolutely agree that this was Piper subconsciously being ready to become a mother. I absolutely can agree with that. I do think that Piper and Paige, though, in season 5, we do see multiple times where she trusts that ladies. That was Prue's crowning achievement. Absolutely. I can see that, Mia. I could see that. We do see multiple times, I think, in season 5 where Piper comes to understand, and maybe it is because she's becoming a mother. Maybe that's what it is that's leading her to that. But I think it also shows us that she has a deeper understanding of Paige and a trust for her that we might not have thought was there before. I will shout it from the top of the mountains as loud as I can for as long as I got air in my lungs. The fact that Piper trusted Paige enough to say that spell to save Phoebe from the mummification, oh my God. Girl, when that hit me one day, it hit me like a ton of bricks. It hit me like a ton of bricks. Because, we talked in the last live, and I think in Piper's, Piper and Phoebe are the loves of each other's lives, if we're just being 100% honest about it. And I think it's because they're the last little piece of what their life was. They're the last little pieces of that normal life that they have, because Andy's gone, Grams is gone, Prue is gone, Victor wasn't even there to begin with. They only see Patty every now and again, and she wasn't there when they were growing up. They don't have anything other than the house and each other. That's it. They are the only reminders that they have on a day-to-day basis of what their life was before magic and when they were growing up. So that's so imperative when we think about the fact that Piper trusted Paige because let's just be honest. Let's just be honest. Piper could have very easily cast that spell to release Phoebe and then been done. She could have just been like, well, girl, I'm sorry to tell you that I need my girl. And we know that at a certain point in time, Piper probably would have done it. If this had been season 4, I'm sorry to tell you, baby, but my girl probably would have been up out of there. And we would have had to move on. The power of 3 will not set us free because it no longer exists for a second time in one lifetime. Huge fan of Pink. But no. But no. She trusted her enough to remember that spell because, like I said, let's remember, Paige had just been possessed herself. Our girl was sitting up here probably tired. Her spirit was probably waning. The lady was sitting up here probably feeling like she was on death's door. And Piper still believed in Paige's ability enough to remember that spell to release Phoebe. Girl. That's all I'm saying. And she loved Phoebe more than anything, including her concubine. She loved Phoebe more than she loved him too. Thank God. But anyway, and then just the fact that she gives Wyatt the middle name of Matthew, right? On paper, oh, that's so sweet. That's adorable. She named him after his auntie, and Paige really put in the work. I think it on a deeper level, more than just the fact that Paige had put her life on the line. She respected. I think that was the final stamp to let us know she respected Paige. Because I can believe in you and maybe not respect you, right? I can believe in the abilities that you have and maybe not respect you. I can respect you and not necessarily believe in you because, girl, you ain't gonna, you ain't, but I respect you. But that was that final little thing that showed her like, baby, you're here. And then this is the same episode where Paige is upset that she's not on the family tree, right? So I don't know whether they put the lady on the family tree. Now I ain't even gonna sit here and hold y'all. I ain't gonna lie to you. I ain't gonna tell you they put the lady on the family tree because I don't know if they did or not. They never said nothing about it if they did. So we all just gonna have to figure that out together. I don't know. But what I do know is that now there's a part of the family that has her name in it. Because here's the other thing about Wyatt and Paige's relationship that's really important to remember and what it will become and why she goes so hard for him. Wyatt is the first person in the family who's going to know Paige from the day that they come into the world. She didn't know them from the first day she came into the world. They didn't know her from the first day that she came into the world. Wyatt is... And Paige takes that very seriously. And I think that's another tie that they have now is his middle name. He's named after her. So, oh, well, they must really love each other. They must really, truly love each other. And that's it. It's a natural bond he has with her. And that's why I think she takes it so seriously. That's another reason that I think Centennial Charmed is such... Season 5 does a lot with Paige. I didn't even think about that till just now. But Centennial Charmed, I think, is probably one of the most important episodes for her as a character. Because, we talked about this before. I know I keep saying we talked about this before, but... there are things that we have talked about. So somebody might hear me and be like, baby, you've already said that. No, we talked about it previously. So I'm coming back to it and I'm going to say it again. Centennial Charmed is so important for her because we as an audience are getting to see what their lives would have been like without her. But more importantly, Paige is getting to see what their lives would have been like without her. Because Paige and Piper's relationship is probably one of the most important ones on the show. Because Paige helped Piper through her grief in a way that nobody else is really going to be able to. From an outside perspective. Like, from just me talking, Phoebe was going through it at the same time. So she couldn't really help her in it. Because she was trying to process it herself. The pain of losing Prue. The pain of trying to figure out what this life is. She was trying to figure that out herself. So how can I help you through something that I'm still going through? And then Leo was just completely useless. So, I mean, no point in even bringing him up. But Paige was able to help Piper through that because she had been through it and she had experienced it by herself. She had experienced that pain of, I have to wake up today and you're not here anymore. And you were just here yesterday. She's experienced, I've had to go to the store and hear your favorite song and not be able to call you and tell you that it was on. You know what I mean? Like those little things. She has experienced that. She has worked through it. She is on the other side of it. And she's able to help Piper come out on the other side of it. Because when we see Piper, she's filled with a need for revenge. And that's not necessarily specifically because of Paige, but because of Paige's ability to help her through that we see this confident, strong version of Piper in front of us. And we see also that without it, she's strong and confident, but she's strong and confident from a place of bitterness and hatred and a need for revenge. This is not Piper. This is a shell of Piper. This is a leather-clad version of Piper. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, that's why the episode is so important, because not only do we get a chance to see it, but by the end of the episode, Paige gets a chance to hear it. And one of my favorite parts of that episode is when Piper in that universe, here's another thing to remember about Piper, because I used to go hard on the fact that this lady was ready to box, ready to fight, and then like by the next day she's open to the fact that, you know, Paige is her sister. Because in my mind I'm thinking like, girl, that's so stupid. That woman is not gonna trust that lady that quick. And then I had to remember something that I think is really important when we talk about this show. The characters don't become different characters just because they go through different things. They're still the same person. They just have different outlooks because of the things they've been through. And at the end of the day, Piper is still Piper. Piper is still a person who looks to someone else to help her through something. Piper is still that person whose default is to believe in someone else helping and being there for her. That's who Piper is. Naturally. We see her work through that, and we see her change in different ways, but that's naturally who Piper is. She sort of puts who she is and her identity on other people. And in that one moment, Piper's literally living in hell. Like, the demon told her go to hell, and she's like, baby, I'm already there. This ain't nothing. Girl, bye. And then this woman comes through. Girl, anyway, I ain't got time for you. But then you were right about the demon. You know Phoebe. You telling me that in this alternate world we done vanquished Shax. You giving me something better to believe in. Of course Piper was going to believe in it. Of course Piper was going to believe that. And it was significant that it was Paige, because she didn't try to force her. She didn't try to make her. Yes, she did try to like talk sense into her because she thought that that was her sister. But she didn't try to beat her over the head and make her go to the manor with her. She let Piper come to her. Just like she did in the show. In season 4. She let Piper ask her questions. She let Piper talk to her when she wanted to. I'll tell you that I'm here to talk to you, or for you to talk to me if you want to, but you don't have to. She let Piper work through those things. And that's what we see her do in a much smaller period of time. But Piper's able to open up to her more easily because, girl, what else do I have to lose? What's the worst that's going to happen? She's a warlock and she's going to take me out? Okay. Have at it. You know what I mean? Like, what else was there to lose? What else did Piper have? And then on top of everything else, I think that shows how smart Piper was, because just like they figured out, like, okay, well, she could call for Leo, so she's not going to be with Leo if she's a demon, more than likely. She's talking about Phoebe, and she's seen her. She's telling me how to vanquish this kind of demon. She knows how to make the potion. This girl might be legit. And again, that shows that not only is Piper naturally trusting, but she's smart. She's not stupid. And this is a Piper who has invested herself in probably being cut off from other people, and she still chooses to trust her. And I think that just goes to show that Piper and Paige have an underlying connection. Now, my favorite scene is when Piper is like, were we close like we were with Prue? I'm not gonna cry. I promise I'm not gonna cry. That's why I tried to circle around it, because I was like, okay, I was trying to give myself enough time. It's really sad but telling that Paige says we were close enough to avenge her. Because I think that there were a couple of different angles from that moment, in that moment. Number one is Paige wanting to be respectful of their connection to Prue. That's number one. Number two, I think there's an underlying part that she kind of doesn't know whether they were as close as her. So she doesn't want to tell a lie. You know what I mean? Like, she doesn't want to say, like, yeah, and then they're not. And I don't think that she fully trusted it enough to say, yes, we are. But then also, I think that she understood that's what Piper needed to know in that moment. She needed to know that Paige was on her side. She needed to know that Paige was part of a reality where they were able to get this revenge for Prue, because she knows that that's what Piper's after. And it's not to appease her, but it's to comfort her and let her know this thing that is eating you up and gnawing on you on the inside is something that we have taken care of because we were able to connect in a meaningful way. And so I just love that scene. I just love it. I love the way that I love what Paige says, because it doesn't, like I said, you can tell it was a very thoughtful answer. You can tell she was trying to be respectful of their connection. That she wasn't trying to say, like, yeah, I replaced Prue. I came in and... Because that's kind of what Piper was asking. Was like, did you come in and did you replace Prue? Like, I don't think that's specifically what she was saying, but that's kind of the undertone of what she was saying. It was like, did you replace her? And it's like, you know, she could have been like, yeah, I came in. And girl, it was like, Prue was never there. But no, it's like, we got close enough to avenge her. Our connection was strong enough to avenge the connection that you had with her. And I love that line. I love that line. I love that moment. I love that whole thing. And Piper's like, when she calls her sis, it just, that to me is such a sweet scene. It's like, it's really amazing. And that's why I said, like, season 5 to me is one of those seasons that I didn't really think about how much they developed Paige and Piper kind of together, really, until I went back and thought about it, because there were so many moments of trust between them and respect between them that I think were necessary for the show. I think that Paige, and I do want to go back, because I really do feel like Paige feels like an outlier in the later seasons, because she doesn't know them as people. So even though they have a respect for each other as sisters, they have a bond as sisters, they don't know each other as people. And I don't think that it's as prevalent, the need to get to know each other as people is as prevalent to Piper and Phoebe, because they never have had to worry about that before. Now, what do I mean by that? Piper and Phoebe growing up together, they know everything about each other. I've known you since you were born. You don't have an evil bone in your body. I used to listen to you when we were in 3rd grade, or when I was in 3rd grade. I used to this, I used to that. When we grew up, blah, 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 blah. Oh, I know this about you. They know everything about each other as people. So they've never, it doesn't click in their minds that they need to get to know each other as people, because Piper and Phoebe have never had to connect like that as sisters. Being sisters and being people, knowing each other as people, have always gone hand in hand. So it doesn't click to them that, okay, Paige, because they see Paige as their sister, if that makes any sense. Like, they see her as their sister, so there's no need to get to know her any deeper. Where they really do need to, like, get to know each other. if they want to have, like, a meaningful, I think, connection. But they have a good enough one to where I think it's okay. But I also think that's because they trauma bonded. And, child, if I done learned anything about trauma bonding, it ain't gonna get you. Long run, child, it ain't gonna get you nowhere. When you trauma bond with somebody, what I have found to be the biggest issue is eventually you're gonna move past that trauma. One of you is gonna move past that trauma. one of you is going to start healing from that trauma, and you're going to start acting in a different manner. And when you do, and if the other person is not ready for that yet, it's going to cause an issue. It's going to cause a problem. Because here's the thing that none of us want to admit to ourselves. Because I think we can see it in other people, but sometimes it's harder when it's us. We don't necessarily like boundaries sometimes. People don't like boundaries. Especially when you have trauma bonded with somebody. It is very hard to retroactively set boundaries and be okay with them. If you and I have stayed up on the phone talking all night about horrible things that have happened to us, and that's kind of our way of laughing and processing, and then one day, I don't want to stay up on the phone all night. I just want to go to sleep because I don't want to relive that tonight right before I go to bed. Okay, well, why not? This is what we do every day. Why are you trying to get out the routine? Why are you trying to X, Y, and Z? See what I'm saying? And that's why trauma bonding just doesn't, it's not a good way to go. It's not a good way to go. They trauma bonded in a way, though, where they were in the thick of their trauma while they were bonding. Because they were bonding over the source, essentially. And their lives being in danger. That's what their bond was. And that's why I think they maintain a good relationship, is because that part is always there. But as they start to grow differently as people, you see them go in these different directions, and it's like, okay, well, what you mean you don't want me to move out the house? Girl, I need to move out the house. I don't even know y'all like that. I don't want to live here. I'm used to being an only child. I'm used to living my life a certain way. I'm used to blah, 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 blah. And then now I'm supposed to live up in here with y'all all day? And then on the opposite end, it's like, well, we've always lived together. That's always been what we've done. And now you trying to come in and change it. Like, girl, what? You see what I mean when I say like their relationship, that's why it goes through so many different layers and levels, is they went through different layers and levels of trauma that kind of held them together. That's why in later seasons, I think that we get a character who was burned out on magic. She didn't necessarily have an outlet for it. She didn't have friends really that she could talk to about it. She didn't have any other family members she could talk to about it. She did not have a good white lighter so that she could actually, talk about the situation. That's another reason they do not need to share a white lighter, because it's already hard enough if I'm going to talk trash about, somebody to you. Then I got to turn around and worry about the fact that you're also married to them. Girl, bye. No. So it's like Paigiana was going through a lot. You see what I mean? When you start talking about these characters, you can just dig so deep. Like, I need to, oh my God. We've been cutting up. I didn't realize we were cutting up like this long. Ooh, we've been talking for what, 2 hours? And we still haven't even gotten to Richard. Okay. Richard. Okay. Richard should have been a better character than he was, I think. I think that he should have been utilized better. Let me double back and say that. because I can appreciate the fact that they tried to go down the route of like what it must be. Ooh, not the light died. The light is gone, child. The light is gone. Richard is a case study in a very interesting concept, because I think it was good to show what a relationship with another witch was like, because we've seen a relationship with a white lighter, we've seen a relationship with a demon, but we've seen relationships with mortals, but we've never actually seen a relationship with another witch, right? And so Richard should have been a good tumble into what it's like for witches to date each other. How do I say this? I really want to be very, I guess, respectful of the way I say this. I think that what they did, without doing it intentionally, I don't know whether they did this intentionally. I can't be for 100% sure. Hey, Uncle Wayne. I can't be for 100% sure on whether they meant to do this or not. So I don't know. I think that what they did unintentionally was played into this thing that men truly are just not good. I think that is exactly it, Mia. Richard was proving Graham's right. And I want to be careful of that, because I know that I'm biased because I'm a man. And I've said before, I'm not a big fan of the, we hate men storyline, right? I'm not the biggest fan of that for, I would say, obvious reasons. But I think that that's what they did with him. And I don't know whether it was to highlight what could happen to Wyatt and what Wyatt could become, or if it was just independent. Because I would love to say that it was supposed to be, a little bit of commentary on what's going to happen with Wyatt if he gets too much power. Like, he could become corrupt and then he could X, Y, and Z. Like, I want to say on paper that that's what the point of that was, but it just felt unnecessary in, I think, the range of what we had going on that season. We had a lot happening. We had Phoebe and Jason, we had Wyatt, we had Chris, we had Piper and Leo. Like, there was so much stuff happening that it just kind of felt unnecessary to add in, Richard is a witch who is not evil, but kind of is, and like, he can touch the Book of Shadows, so clearly he's good, or at least is neutral enough to touch it. But then he's also throwing energy balls, and then having access to too much magic is throwing him off, and he's doing this and he's doing that. And so at a certain point, it just turned into, I felt like, another way of being like, see, Grams was right. Men can't handle magic. See, Grams was right. Men are so horrible. Men are this. And it's like, it was unnecessary. I mean, that's what I mean when I say, like, Richard is not a bad character. I don't think Richard was a bad character. I just think Richard did not get a good story. And it started off well enough, with the ex-fiance and the families feuding and all this and that and the misunderstanding. Like, that was fine. I didn't mind that. But at a certain point, it's like, huh? And then Paige moves in with him to the mansion, and then she has to move out because she still wants to practice magic, and she can't do that if she's going to be around him, because it's only going to tempt him to want to do. And it's like, but it just felt like she can't be who she really is around this man for the sake of this man. And, she doesn't want to put him in that place. And that's what I mean when I say, like, Richard is hard to talk about for me, because there are some things, I don't want to misspeak about something, because it has been a long time since I've watched some of the Richard episodes. But it's like, Richard he kind of didn't need to be there, I don't think. Like, I think I almost would have given her I feel like I probably would have had Richard in season 5. To me, I would have had Richard in season 5 when Paige was going on this exploration of magic, and specifically going on an exploration of magic, and was trying to figure out who she was with it, and she's seeing all these different things, and then maybe have Richard be this, like he is, a powerful witch who is from a rich family, and he is that part of her that she always wished, or that she has wished that she could be, which is, knowing that you're magical from birth, but also growing up in your family and having access to your family's magic, right? So we can kind of explore those parts of herself, and then eventually you can get to a point where they just sort of naturally break up, and it doesn't have to be drawn. Maybe they realize, like, we each were taking something from each other in this relationship that, X, Y, and Z, you know what I mean? Like something like that. He got to live a normal life where she was getting to live the magical whatever of her dreams. I don't know fully what I'm trying to go with there. But yeah, Richard was just unnecessary at the end of the day. That's the problem, is that he was just unnecessary to the story. But then so were the temp jobs, if I'm being 100% honest. The temp jobs, to me, is where they truly just didn't know what to do with her anymore. I'm so serious when I say that. I think season 5, the whole point was her going on the magical journey and trying to figure out who she was, trying to figure out what comes next, trying to figure out, where do we go from here and there. And that's one thing. But truly, I think when we started the temp jobs, girl, they just didn't know what. They didn't know. My girl had no idea. And I just feel like sending her on this magical journey. It felt like they were trying to force the, look at her, she's so unstable and whatever else, when Paige was always the most stable probably out of all of them, except for Prue and Piper. No shade to Phoebe, but I'm just saying, like, Paige had a job at a very young age. She was taking care of herself. She had an apartment, and it's like, what did you need to take those things away from her for? And again, I think that it's because the show had a particular dynamic that we came into the show with. I think they had an established hierarchy in the family, and the show was like, girl, we're not getting away from the formula. And so they made Paige into the lovable screw up, which doesn't make sense because that's not who Paige as a character was. Now, it doesn't make sense that Paige would want to find a new path outside of the norm because she's been introduced to magic. Yes, because Paige is headstrong, but she also has that wild side. So it makes sense. But having Paige go from job to job and be like, I don't know what's going on. Girl, be for real. Girl, be for real. This is not Phoebe. They are not the same person. Stop trying to make them into the same person. And that's what the show did, and it was a problem. Which is, again, so now that we're there, talking about Kyle a little bit, I think that that's what they were, I really think that they were trying to make Kyle and Paige the new Phoebe and Cole. I really, truly do. And I know that's crazy, and I know that that's ridiculous, but I think that he was supposed to be her. She's choosing him over her sisters, and she's doing such and such, over her sisters, and she's not really in sync with them because she's trying to make sure he's good. Like, I think they were going for that aspect, and it just didn't work. I love Kyle down, and I actually do love Kyle as her boyfriend. I really do. And I think that they would have made a good couple going forward. And I think that she could have helped him move into this part of his life. Like, okay, well, I got revenge, quote unquote, on the avatars. So who am I now? I think that is a good, that would have made for a good story. I don't think it would have been the best in the world, but I think it would have made for a good one. Because Kyle was kind of a weird character too, where it's like they didn't really know how they wanted to portray him. Like, he was a jerk, but he was a jerk for a reason, and it's like we semi were supposed to be rooting for him, but then we also kind of weren't, because they did code him as like villainish, but then he turned out to be right. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like so it's like Kyle was interesting. He was interesting. I would have to go back and really watch him. I would really have to go back and watch season 7 in its entirety, I think, to have a full-on discussion and thought process about him, because some of the stuff about Kyle is like from memory, and I don't think it's fair for me to work from memory, because he was a very layered character. Oh my God. Henry. Henry would have been perfect for Piper. I think that Henry would have been perfect for Piper. I could almost say Phoebe, but I think that Henry would have been a better fit for Piper, because he was fine with magic and he was okay being in it, but he kind of wasn't like, oh my God, I don't want it. Like, he wasn't Darren Stevens, but he was gonna support her, and I think that's what Piper needed, and I think that he would have been a better fit for her. Because having Paige with a mortal man at that point just seemed very strange, even though he was okay with magic, because I feel like if anybody, Paige was I feel like I probably would have had Phoebe be with a mortal man, and then have Paige be with a magical being. Because I feel like Paige is the one who would really want her household to be magical. But then I also see it with Phoebe wanting her household to be magical. So it's like, it's little things like that. Because here's the thing. Phoebe and Paige are so much alike that sometimes it's hard for me to like distinguish what I would do with which one of them, because they have a lot of the same characteristics, and it's kind of hard to decipher, because and that's why I focus when I talk about them so heavy on their backgrounds, because I think that's what stops, what kind of like separates them in my mind. But the thing about Henry is the same issue that I have with Coop. He was a little bit unnecessary. No, Coop was fully unnecessary. Henry was a little bit unnecessary. And the reason I say that is Henry and Coop were there to make sure that all three of them had nice ends to their stories. That's me. I think that the two of them were brought in so that Paige and Phoebe could have nice ends to their story. So they could have a man, so they could have children. Because if we're being 100% honest, Paige, we talked about this on Twitter the other day. Paige is not the wifey mother type lady. Now, my girl is a bomb aunt. Don't get me wrong. My girl is one of the best aunts there probably is in the world. But am I saying Paige wouldn't want children? No. But I could see Paige having like one child. And then being like, I could see her being like Lorelai Gilmore, if we're being 100% honest. Like, I could see her being just like Lorelai. Or like the aunts from Practical Magic. Like, I could see her being the one that, because exactly, she taught Wyatt how to be a white lighter. So we know that she has a close relationship with him. Like, I really don't think I would have given Paige children. I really do not think I would have given her children. I would have just had her just be close to her nieces and nephews, and we just go from there. That's what I would have done. It just felt very unnecessary. It felt very much like, because they're women, they have to have this family unit, this traditional family unit, in order to feel complete. Yes, little Henry and the twins. The fact that we don't even, Paige has 2 daughters, and we don't know her, we are not told her daughters' names. We're just told little Henry and the twins. Why is there an emphasis on the boy's name? Just say like the kids. Just say we could focus on the kids. And it's like, be for real. Like, let's be for real. Yes, like it was the way they presented it was like, because they're twins, we don't really need to take the time to separate them. Girl, they're just the twins. But the little boy, that's Henry Jr., that's Henry's mini-me. And it's like, come on now. And then like, I could definitely see her having a son, and that's it. I could see her having a boy, having her son, and boom, we're good. That's, or daughter, whoever, but I could see her having that one child, and that's a wrap. Like, I could see Paige being a single mama. I could see Paige being one who chose to be inseminated. I could see that for her. I could absolutely see that for her. And it just felt like a cop-out to have her do that. But like I said, more so than anything, Henry, there's no time between when we and Paige meet Henry and when they get married. There's no time between. Like, the fact that they're and it's like then they bring in Simon, who is just hilarious in and of himself, because Simon is supposed to be our look into how much Henry really cares about her. Because Henry doesn't see her as just joining magical lineages. He sees her as a person, and he likes the fact that she tickles her nipples when she's eating peanut butter or whatever it was, child. I don't know. I don't remember what he said. But whatever it was, it's like, okay, we get it. He loves her. Okay, boom. You did not have to do all of that and create this stupid character just so that you could tell us that. Girl, we get it. We understand. I promise you, we understand that the man loves the woman. Because Simon comes in and he completely breaks the whole thing anyway. Because what do you mean there's another white lighter witch out here? That doesn't make any sense. What do you mean? Like that doesn't. And then for their, hey Cynthia, she's a really cool dancer. Cynthia Boogie to the Groove now. And then the fact that she is that apparently their families work together. Like, how now, brown cow, are we just running around with half white lighters and nobody's supposed to say anything? Like, anyway, that's not even important. I mean, it kind of is, but it's important for a different issue. No, it is important because Paige was supposed to be the first of her kind that we knew about that openly was existing. They could have at least taken a quick moment to be like, you know, my family hid me away until you came out, and then, not came out, but until you were revealed, and then my family was able to tell the world about me. Then my family was able to bring me out of hiding. Then my family is able to claim that they have a white lighter witch, something like that. Like, there should have been some kind of a connection to Paige's past instead of just being like, oh yeah, they're compatible because he's also a half white lighter. Girl. So, child, I can't. I absolutely can't. I absolutely cannot. That was important because if Simon existed, Leo and Piper shouldn't have went through. Exactly, Donique. I hated they took Paige being the first. Yes, it made no sense. It made no sense. Even if you say that she's older than Simon, that's fine. But clearly, this man has been practicing magic his entire life. Clearly, this man has known about his magical lineage for at least a good portion of his life, I'm going to say. And he's had time to be, you know, stuck up and whatever else. Like, girl, what am I sitting on? Anyway, so it just, little stuff like that, y'all. But all of those reasons are the reasons why I love me some Paigeana LaTanya Matthews. Those are the reasons why she's my girl. She overcame feeling like a stand-in. She overcame feeling isolated and lonely. And in the end, once she relaxed and sat back and looked at what was in front of her, she was able to find her place in her family, and she was able to bond and connect with them on a deeper level. So that's what I just love about her. I love the fact that she didn't, even when she got tired, even when, girl, why am I still doing this? Even when I don't understand what the point is in trying no more, she still kept going. And that's why she's my favorite. She just reminds me that, like, even if you feel like you're on the outside looking in, you can always find your way. So that's my bae. That's my TED Talk. That's my TED Talk on Paige LaTanya Matthews, child. Oh goodness. I am going to download this, and then it'll be available on my YouTube sometime tomorrow. I don't know what time, because sometimes when I go to download the lives and stuff from TikTok, it just says it needs to process and all of that. So I ain't got no lie to tell you what time it's gonna be up. I ain't got no lie, because I don't know. It's gonna be up when it comes up. So you just gonna have to be subscribed so you can get a notification. And you're just gonna have to be subscribed to my YouTube so you can get the notification for when it comes up. And then you can also get notifications for when I post other videos. So you just gonna have to be over there. But y'all, do the page now. My girl was cutting up. She said she was showing out. That lady, I don't know how I let that whole thing go by without doing a dance. I don't know. That lady was eating the dance alive. Do you understand me? She said, listen, one thing about it, two things for sure. I'm going to serve y'all face, and I'm going to serve y'all a dance. Did you miss the improv? No, Troynell, you didn't miss the improv. I said we're going to do it after we do with the deep dives. That's what I said. That's what I said. I said that. It's on here. I got it. Like when I post this, you're going to be able... You don't... Troynell. Because I smell it. I know what you're trying to do. You're trying to shame me. You're trying to shame me. You're trying to gaslight me. No, sir. Not happening tonight. I'm tired. And I gotta get up early in the morning, so I gotta be well rested. Because I completely forgot that I probably should have done this earlier. I was on a roll today. I was on a roll, Mia. You are absolutely right. I probably should have done this earlier so I could get some rest, but y'all, it'll be alright. I'll be fine. Nah, Troynell, I know what you were trying to do. You were trying to trick me. Because, even though it doesn't happen regularly, in the past, I have forgotten one thing one time. There was once that I forgot something. And it hasn't happened since then. Because I would never forget anything. Meandra, aren't you on my side? Who's on my side? Nix is on my side. Nix is the only one on my side. Everyone else just gaslights me. It's crazy. It's absolutely insane. But y'all, I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna log on off. I'm gonna clock on out. That's a Troynell. Oh, Mia, of course, I knew you were. I never said that you weren't on my side. Mia, what? Don't let them come in between us. Mia, do not let them come in between Gia. Please don't let them come in between Gia. because I never said that. That was Leia. That was Leia that said that. And it probably sounded like me, but she used a voice amplifier to amplify from her home state to Louisiana. And so it may have seemed in the moment like it wasn't me, but it was. I knew that you were on my side. That's so crazy. Did I ever read the Charm comics? I read a couple of them, but I'm aware of what happened in the stories. So can y'all please go look at Wiz Prince's profile picture, because my God in heaven, that man is beautiful. Oh my God. Girl, okay. Okay. Y'all listen, I had a discussion with myself. This is some tea. I had a discussion with myself at one point, and I said that I was going to make an effort, a very strong effort, to not be mesmerized by a beautiful man. I made the specific choice because I realized that it probably came off very strange, and I made the choice not to do that anymore. Looking at that man's profile picture, girl, how can you not be a bird? How can you look at a man like that and then not be a bird? You know what I'm saying? Like, have you ever just seen a man where you just be like, I'm a simp. I am a simp. Okay. See, this is what happens. And then I get off of here and I feel so stupid after the fact. And how's that working out for you? Still single as a Pringle. Still single as a Pringle. Still sitting here looking ugly over the internet, child. So clearly it ain't working out well for me in the least bit. But that's okay. Girl, let me get off of here before I make myself look even more stupid. It was so great being here with y'all tonight. Thank you so much. 46.6K likes. Oh my God. Y'all were over there getting carpal tunnel in them thumbs. I appreciate y'all so much. Thank you for listening to me. Thank you for being here with me. Thank you for enjoying this journey. Thank you for going on this ride with me. I will see y'all here Saturday at 7 p.m. Shut up, Brittany. Oh yeah, the picture. We gotta take the picture. But yeah, so I'll see y'all here 7 p.m. Central Time Saturday, and I'll have a little. It's not gonna be a surprise, but I mean it is kind of a surprise. Y'all will find out when you get here. Anyway, so y'all smile for our selfie. Smile for the selfie, and you better put on a good smile. You better put you on a smile. Okay. Wait a minute, because Mia was smiling too, so okay, all right. And then let's see, Mia smiled, Blake, unnecessary trouble, Troynell. Anyway, Troynell, I'm gonna whoop you one day. I really am. Like, Troynell, you really gonna get a whooping. You and Leia, where is Brittany? Did Brittany smile? Because I just started saying Brittany's name. I don't even know if Brittany was here. Customize Your Life said, I feel bullied. I'm not going to say welcome to the club, because low-key, I do be bullying everybody to a certain extent. Hey, Kalia. Kalia, why do I feel like I haven't said hey to you? But I know I've seen your name, but I don't know that I've said hello to you. So please take this as my sincerest apology that I have not spoken to you. Hi, how are you? I hope that you are doing great. I love you and I miss you. Brittany, I don't think you really did smile. But yeah, that might be a good time for. I mean, listen, I'm just saying that if you feel like I am gaslighting you, then you are part of the coven. You are part of the coven. You've been working. Listen, girl, say no more. Say no more. Do y'all know? Y'all, do y'all notice that man that asked me if I saw the Charm comics and then I was taken by his beauty? Do y'all notice he hadn't said nothing else? See, that's why I had made the decision to stop simping over these men. Because you see Beezy ain't said nothing else. This man ain't said nothing else. Girl, I'm gonna be lonely for the rest of my life. Can you give a shout out to my friend Mark? Hi, Mark. Hello, Mark. Mark exclamation point. I hope you're having a great day. Now me doing shout outs for people. Oh my God. Girl, is this fame? Am I a celebrity? Girl, let me find out I'm a celebrity. Kalia, listen. That man got up out of here quick, fast, and in a hurry. He said, not Yogi the Bear is up here telling me that I'm fine, child. That man heard me say that and something. He said, let me go. That man said, let me get up out of her. And you know what? I don't blame him. Child. Not me up here looking like a burnt pot of honey. Anyway. Okay. All right, y'all. I'm gone. For real. I'm gonna see y'all tomorrow. No, I'm not gonna see y'all tomorrow. I just lied to y'all. I just sat here and lied straight to y'all's face. I'm going to see y'all Saturday. Lord bless and say the same. I'll see y'all Saturday. So, bye everybody. Goodbye.